Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Fetch YouTube channel. We are joined here today with Joshua Alcock, who recently came fifth in the Oceania Treasure Cup with none other than Yamato. How are you
Hey,
feeling? This is your second top eight
oof.
with Yamato, isn't it?
Yes, this is my second top eight with Yamato. It's feeling really good. I'm really liking how it's performing in this meta. Mm,
Nice. And I think
mm.
both times that you've topped Yamato was sort of a sleeper pick, which is pretty funny.
Yes, I've been playing Yamato for the last 6 months, I think, and it's forever been a sleeper pick. And I keep thinking it's insane.
Yeah.
I think it's really, really good.
Yeah. So, I mean, besides being a Yamato, I guess, fan, what was the reason you chose to play Yamato for a big tournament?
I've got at this point, after playing it for so long, I've got the practice on it, and I think it has a really nice matchup spread across the board.
Right.
It has nice tech options for each matchup. Admittedly, it does help when your opponent sits down and they don't necessarily know what all your cards do.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you're extremely prepared for the matchup, so
Yeah, yeah.
it's always nice to have that little element of surprise for it.
Of course, of
Um,
course.
but no, as we get into the deck list, I'll talk about how some of the cards help for each matchup because I think it has actually at least a good to decent matchup into almost the entire meta, but I'm admittedly very biased from just getting top eight. So
All right. Okay. Well, let's get through it then. Let's go through your deck list and then we'll talk strategy after.
awesome. So it's running four of the Momonosuke Searcher.
Yep.
I'll run through some of these quickly and then I'll talk about them together. Four of the Otama Searcher, three of the four cost Hiyori,
Mm-hmm.
one You Can Be My Samurai. Sorry about the glare.
That's all good.
And four five cost Momonosuke.
Right.
So these are part of one of the core concepts of the deck, which is you can play so aggressively with Yamato having double attack, and
Mm-hmm.
then at any point in the game you can pump through breaks because this five cost Momonosuke can just give you a life and a blocker out of essentially nowhere.
Right.
So to quickly explain the combo is you'd play Otama, which can draw into a Hiyori or whatever. You'd play
Mm-hmm.
Hiyori, play You Can Be My Samurai to rest the two of them, draw two more cards, and then play Momonosuke out of the Hiyori, and you would go net neutral in hand and gain a life and a blocker for all of 6 Don.
Right.
As you can see, I'm only running the one You Can Be My Samurai, as the full combo isn't necessary per se, as
Right.
just playing Otama into five cost Momonosuke is more than enough just to be insane. And the
Mm-hmm.
Momonosuke searcher searches for this. The second sort of core of the deck is through this three cost Mihawk, is being able to
Yes.
cheat out bodies is really, or it's being one don efficient to cheat out bodies is so nice in Yamato because being able to develop two bodies makes it more likely that at least one will stick. You get to use your leader, the second half of your leader ability more effectively of being able to attach two Rested Don. So I run four Mihawk, four Kiku no Jo, and four Ryuma, which four Ryuma may be odd,
Mm-hmm.
but this card is so very important for the Doflamingo matchup because typically Yamato will get absolutely steamrolled by Doflamingo because it can't keep up and it can't kill them quick enough, and they just
Mm-hmm.
outvalue you long game. And so the four cost Ryuma is so important to get board back and actually play a slower game. And then once you can kind of fight for board with Ryuma, you can then live with the five cost Momonosuke. Two of the 2K counter Hiyori, four of the three cost Aizo, and then its late game top end is Hodijo. This card's insane.
Yeah.
I will forever say this card's insane. It's run in almost every single green deck that is relevant in the meta for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And considering it's played in every green deck, and yet this green deck gets to swing 10 instead of 8, it's insane.
Yeah. For free,
Uh,
by the way.
yeah, for free. It's also very important for the Blackbeard matchup because you just get you don't even take a life necessarily. You just get to
Right.
rush. I'll quickly finish out the deck list and then we can talk about some matchups. It runs two zero cost events, two Blaze Slice, a lot of two ups. Two
Mm-hmm.
Blaze Slice, two Demon Ashura, um, 2 Onami, 2 5-cost Nami,
Hmm.
and 2 Nico Robin. Yes. A lot of 2-ofs.
The logic
Question
behind
so
that.
far. Oh, behind all the 2-ofs?
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Especially the Onami, because that used to be a
yeah, a
staple
lot
4 of,
of
right?
it feels like a lot of people would run the Onami heavily. I find the core of the deck is the ability to be able to heal, the win board with these Mihawk and 4 costs, the late game pressure, and even just the threat, even if you don't have it. And then everything else kind of fills out the slots of helping from maybe a specific matchup or just helping things that you don't necessarily want to see every game. For example, this Onami, you may think is insane because it's double attack banish, which it is. It's mainly, I find it insane into a Nell, but into other matchups, typically I don't find the time to play it because if I'm going second, I wouldn't play it on 4 because 7k banish, they'll counter, but if I swung 7k without banish, they would likely counter regardless. Therefore, having banish doesn't matter in that situation. And
Right.
so I only really get value out of the banish when I swing, I guess, 9k or higher, which
Mm,
typically I'm trying to be very efficient with the Don, and attaching 4 to lead and 2 for Onami is a little bit too much commitment.
yeah.
But into a Nell, it's very important because any amount of cards out of their hand is great.
So would you say
Um,
that's more of an NL specific
yeah,
tech?
and Nell, BY Luffy, it's also still important to run in the deck if your opponent counters early on, because typically as Yamato, I'm looking to go first, and I am looking to swing 8k on 3 Don. If they counter that, Onami
Hmm.
is very important to be able to punish them from doing that. If they
Right.
counter an 8k, and then on the following turn you swing 7k banish, they're not likely to have the counter to be able to counter that. And so then you just
Yeah.
win based on the value that you get from banishing 2 cards.
Or even if they do, you still again win on value because they're
Yes,
dropping
yeah,
two
yeah,
cards.
absolutely. Typically, if they do counter that 8k swing and I don't have the, I immediately, instead of swinging bigger to try and get them to take, I'll pull back to swing 5s
Yeah.
because they've already dropped 2 2ks. They're not likely to continue dropping cards,
Hmm.
especially because if you're swinging 5, you have the rest of your Don to develop your board and to win in other ways and get value from different sources. 6-cost Robin was an interesting one. I originally put it in the deck at the beginning of OP09 and then took it out because I didn't see the point.
Hmm.
But then at Nats, I played into a bunch of Luchis and I struggled to take their third life because I'm trying to often rush Lucci down by
Hmm.
going first, swinging 8, and then either a great play would be Mihawk into Kiku and swing 7. But then if they fully clear the board and just stay at 3 life, or even if they take the double attack and go down to 1 life, I can't then clear out the game because they have too many cards in hand. The 6-cost Robin helps get them straight down to 2 because it banishes, they trash the life, but it
Hmm.
also keeps the hand size down
Yeah.
by obviously trashing the life. Because a similar spot I thought about was the 5-cost Genjiro, which can't be KO'd, but they,
Ah, yeah.
because it'll stick on the board guaranteed, but then they take the life to hand, but then you have a body and it's weird. I preferred the Robin for the counter.
Yeah. If they want to KO the Robin, like, are you okay with that? Because you'd rather they KO the Robin versus like your blocker Momo or like a Hody.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. I find if they're gonna put the resources in to clear the Robin, it's typically 2 cards from hand. Like they'll have to Ice Age and then Brook,
Yeah.
or Ice Age Lucci, or Tempest Kick is
Something.
cringe, but not the point. But if for them to to put resources into clearing it, it's cards out of their hand. And
Mm.
into Lucci, a big point of emphasis when I play into it is how many cards they have in hand. Because even if they have 9 cards and most of them are bricks, eventually throughout the game they will cycle them out into 2Ks. Because they'll play
Yeah.
Saba, they'll play Jack, they'll play Rebecca, pick up a 2K, and everything. The longer the game goes, the more counter they end up like
Yeah.
acquiring. And so the cards in hand is so important for me in that matchup.
Gotcha. Very cool. And the Egghead Nami.
The Egghead Nami.
Yeah. So what was the
It's
reason behind that one?
it was originally going to be a four of. It is overall just an insanely good value card. You're
Mm-hmm.
able to clear five cost, which are typically very key cards. Think of like into Black Yellow Luffy, it's the five cost Luffy, or any of the Luffys, all of their five. Into Purple Luffy is the main point I
Oh,
run
okay.
it. I didn't play into any Purple Luffy, but when you go first, you're able to clear their five cost the turn they play it.
Yeah.
Or even when going second, you're able to clear that Sangoro when you're on
Yeah.
6 and they've just played Luffy Taro into Sangoro.
Mm.
And Sangoro is so important to clear because, again, a point of emphasis being cards in hand, and they also cycle their cards out. Purple Luffy's a weirdly difficult matchup now that they've got Gundam
Yeah.
Giant, because we used to be able to rush them down, and it was really bad for Purple Luffy. Now they can kind of take down to one life and then just counter. And so you
Right.
kind of have to play it slightly different in a more board control, get earlier, like get different kinds of swings in. Hodie's fantastic for that because you're able to rest their Don. And so
Mm-hmm.
if they don't leave 3 Don up, you're able to potentially rest both their Don or one Don and a blocker, or both Don and then rest a blocker with Blaze Slice or something like that. And so you can get around some things nicely.
I see you have the green event, the something demon.
Yeah, I also don't know the name of this card.
So one of the costs for that is to rest your own character. So
It
what
is
was the
rest.
thinking behind that, and what's your usual target?
The original reason I put this in was for the Black Yellow Luffy matchup because I struggled to rest their 5 cost Sanji blocker. And I found in that matchup, I would often look to play Mihawk as soon as I can, just for bodies to pressure the idea of lethal. So
Yeah.
I'll typically swing 5, play Mihawk into Kikusei.
Mm-hmm.
And if they take the 5 down to 2, then I get to play a game of the next turn I could swing 7, and if they take, then I could swing huge with the Kiku or the Mihawk
Yeah.
and kind of play those games. But that then means that I typically have a Mihawk sitting on the board the whole game. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that. It's not a very single use case. What I
Yeah.
found was I would end up acquiring a decent amount of 4 cost bodies, maybe a couple Kikus or a Ryuma or something, and I wouldn't look to swing with them all. I would typically only swing with
Right.
one because getting to 9k is so difficult once they've
Yeah.
started to turn combo off. And
Uh-huh.
so resting one Kiku to make the Ryuma big while also resting their blocker and then being able to swing through just felt nice, to be
Yeah,
honest. But it
because
does
you're
have other use
probably
cases.
not going to swing with all of your characters anyway.
No, absolutely, because it's so Don inefficient. Also, being able to attach the 2 rested Don that you've just
Oh,
used
it's
to
free.
play the card is it's free. It's free. You get a free plus 3k if you're not playing anything else that turn.
Yeah.
And so into some matchups where I wouldn't need it necessarily, it's just exactly that. Turns I'll just go plus 3k to lead, swing 9 because I'll attach another Don, and then just
Mm.
attach 2 more to something else, and then just swing aggressively. And it's just a way to help that. Otherwise,
Gotcha.
you can play the 4 cost Hiyori, play Ashura to rest it, rest their
Oh yeah.
blocker, say,
Mm-hmm.
swing through with your leader, and then get rid of this to still develop a board. Or even better yet, if you rested a 4 cost, if you play out a Ryuma to KO the 4 cost, oh my god, that's an awesome turn. I've never done
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so you kind of just treat it like you can be my samurai, almost.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So like you are able to get even more value out of the Hiyori by being able to rest it without that really necessarily being a cost because it's
Yeah,
just
of
going to go
course.
away anyway. And that's only
Yeah,
6 Don. And so on your 6 Don turn, you're able to swing 8 and still develop a board. This deck
crazy.
list is it's quite important to have a board
Yeah.
because it's not looking to swing 8 and then swing 10 and then kind of block her up with 8 cost kid. It kind of
Mm.
needs to win, not win board, but like fight for it at least.
And the blaze slice, I assume, is just
It's just
it's
great. Yeah,
plus 1k for
it's
the turn. You get to rest the forecast, which is
rest a
insane.
blocker. A worst case, you can play it defensively and go to 6k on your opponent's turn and rest one of the things. It
Yeah.
feels like it should be very good in the Dofi matchup, but I often don't get them down to 2 life, and if I have, then I'm already trying to pressure them for lethal. A weird note is going into Dofi, I actually choose second if I win the
Yeah.
dice roll, because the entire game plan is you have to see Ryuma on 4 Don because they'll swing 7 and flip, and then you
Uh-huh.
immediately get to remove the body that they just played.
Yeah.
Now that might seem extremely inconsistent, but having 8 searches, 4 of this target, the 8 searches really makes it very consistent. I believe I did the math, and it's like an 80 something % chance to see the Ryuma on 4
Damn.
because you take the 7k swing and you can still Otama search. And then if you had the Mihawk, you're able to play Mihawk into Ryuma. There's
Of
a lot
course, of
of
course.
ways to be able to get it out.
Let's talk about matchups. So,
Yeah,
how do you find the Dofi matchup?
admittedly, I thought it was really good, and then over time, it's become more and more difficult. But Ryuma is the saving grace because it's
Mm-hmm.
able to clear board, and then if it sticks because they don't necessarily want to bounce it with the law because you're just going to play it again, it then means that it can swing into their board. And
Yeah.
so often I'm swinging lead with my lead, which they typically don't want to take. No one likes to take the double attack hit,
Yeah.
and then I get to clear their board with the swings on my board. Kikunojo, admittedly, is an awful card in that matchup because it gets bounced so easily.
And it's
But
not really giving you value.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Triggering it is forever awesome. But it's typically the game plan revolves around Ryuma to KO their board, and then you can kind of take, not aggressively because you're still scared of pudding,
Mm.
but being able to survive later on. Like if they push you to 0 life to try and perfume Femi you, you can immediately punish them for doing that by playing Otama into Momonosuke or anything into Momonosuke to gain the life, and then they've kind of wasted their last turn. It's not a great
So,
matchup, but
yeah.
it's fine.
Yeah, yeah. So, let's pretend on the 3 Don turn they
Mhm.
do a Jinbei into another body. Are you KOing the active character and then swinging with Yamato um at the Jinbei, or are you still swinging at their leader to for a
So
double
notably,
damage?
the Ryuma KO's a rested character,
So it can only hit
so
the Jinbei.
it can only hit the Jinbei.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
things that do come up would be they Jinbei into Boa. I'll swing 5 at lead. They'll block with the boa, and I go, nice, I get to kill the boa,
Ah, okay.
which is pretty fun.
And you
But
don't
yeah, so
mind.
it does have to kill the thing. But if they do play too many Jinbeis, that does become overwhelming. But I feel like that's the case for every matchup.
What would you say your most favorable and least favorable matchup is in this?
My most favorable matchup, I would think, would be. I'm trying to think about my matchups that I did end up playing. I would say that my most favorable matchup would be Blackbeard, just because
Oh, okay.
they are trying to fight the fact that they have to drop a card every turn. It helps that they won't know my deck list. They aren't sure when they have to drop cards, and if they are dropping a card every single turn, that's helping your game plan of trying to kill them as quickly as you can.
Yeah,
It does. It may rely on seeing one Hody just for that last push, or they can't clear a body. The moment they can't
yeah.
clear a body, I get that extra swing because I can get them down to 3, and then if I hit them with a Ryuma or something, I get them down to 2, and then from there it's reasonably straightforward.
Okay.
It can be an issue, like how most decks are with Blackbeard, but I think most matchups are slightly favored towards me. And then I
Right.
would say the worst matchup would be either Shanks or Purple Luffy. But I'm just might be personally bad at playing into Purple Luffy. Shanks can be tough because if they run, well, they will run Red Hawk, and so if they go second, my 3 Don turn kind of sucks because if I swing 8, they just Red Hawk the swing, and I go,
Mm-hmm.
damn. And then if they run Lucky Roo,
Oh,
if
yeah.
they then follow it up by Lucky Roo on 4, I can't build my board. I can't really swing nicely because it gets blocked, and everything sort of falls apart. It
Yeah.
absolutely still can win because they do need to see quite a few pieces without a searcher. Because if they search on 2 Don, then I can swing 8 because they don't have 2 Don on. Stuff like that.
Mm.
Because I played in Nats in Australia and I ended up playing into 2 Shanks and ended up beating them both. And so I was like, well, maybe it
Mm.
can't be that awful of a matchup at least.
Right. What's your general like game plan when you do see those decks? Is it still kind of the same as your normal game plan,
Um,
or do you try play around certain things?
I think I have a game plan for each deck. I know what curves I'm trying to find.
Yeah.
So, for example, comes down to it might just be that I've played this deck so much that I get a
Mm-hmm.
feel for it, but just knowing your best turns of and your best Don numbers and
Yeah.
trying to do what your opponent doesn't, just feels bad for them.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if purple Luffy leaves a Don up,
Yep.
swinging and has maybe 4 cards in hand or so, swinging 5k at lead typically feels annoying for them because they want to use their Gum Gum Giant on a nice 7k swing or something.
Of
And
course.
so
Yeah.
sometimes doing awkward multiple fives, they're going to go, this sucks.
Yeah.
Even if you may have the Don to swing higher, it's very
It feels bad.
situation based as well, though. Every situation changes. And I think
Mm.
that might be due to this meta being so diverse. There's so
Right.
many leaders.
Yeah.
Like
Of course.
I feel like if you play a 9 round event, you end up playing 6 to 7 different leaders, unless you play about 6 Dofis, which is a completely different tournament. That is
Yeah.
very possible.
100%. 100%. Oh, very cool. Yeah. Let's talk about the Treasure Cup. What were your matchups, if you remember them?
So my matchups were I played into Red Purple Luffy first round, which I typically try to build a board and then swing. I don't try to swing aggressively early because if you swing 8 or 9, they'll just take and then sit at 1 for the rest of the game, which can be quite difficult. Whereas if you're chipping them with 6s, you can take that hand advantage down, especially since they're only a 3 life leader. They don't actually get too many cards in hand. My second matchup was Enel. Oh, and I won the Red Purple Luffy. I played into Enel, which I actually quite like the matchup
Mm-hmm.
because it's a completely different gameplay. Enel plays so specifically that you're just trying to get cards out of their hand until you can kill them, because realistically you can't try and go for a game at just any turn because they'll trigger everything and they'll
Yeah. Yeah.
replenish and they have 8 cards in hand. But I won that game. Typically through Hody is helpful because they'll play a high end, you rest the high end and swing into it. Third round I played into Lucci. Lucci's an annoying matchup, but I've played it so much. Fourth round I played Dofi. I won. I went 6-0 and then I lost the seventh round and then I won the eighth.
Ah, nice,
Fourth round
nice.
I played into Dofi, which was a close game, but got there. I chose second into all the Dofis,
Mm-hmm.
and it worked out. That's the best I
Nice.
can say. The fifth round, actually, I played into Green Uta, which used to
Okay.
be the worst possible matchup for this deck because they would play 8 cost Kid, and I had no way to get through it.
Yeah.
But they have now since taken that out of the deck, and it just runs a full film package, and it was much more easy to deal with because of
Yeah.
that.
Nice.
This deck kind of gets rolled by 8 cost Kid because I don't have any way to clear it other than to develop a Hody first before they get it, and then have a big body to swing into it. Round 6 was BY Luffy, and that was an interesting game where they just didn't get babies, but typically I'm looking to develop board and try and eat cards out of hand by just using the idea that I could swing bigger if they don't counter, and then instead of actually swinging, you develop a bigger board again. Then round 7 and 8, I played into Dofi and then Dofi. I lost round 7 in the most miserable game imaginable, where I had no counter in hand and they just killed me awfully. But then round 8, I pulled back and ended up going 7-1. Yes, I'm very happy about it.
Now that you've had a Treasure Cup under your belt
Mm.
for this set, is there anything that you would change?
Um,
Or maybe even insight for the next set?
the next set, I don't know if I would change anything in this current deck list. There's many Yamato deck lists that kind of look at a style like this and then go, oh, I'll change maybe Ryuma, I'll cut out and then run something else, and then I'll change this other thing and cut it just that. And it very quickly just becomes a different style
Yeah.
and it has a different play style. And so I quite like this deck list. The things I'd play around with would be the You Can Be My Samurai and the Hiyori numbers. The numbers are a little weird because I'm trying to keep the green Wano numbers up. If you're wondering why it's like 1 and 3 and
Yeah.
4 Ryuma is kind of a lot, but
Mm-hmm.
I had a tournament where I didn't see it into Dofi and it upset me.
Yeah, fair,
So
fair.
I went to 4. But next set, we get the 4 cost Hawkins, which essentially does what the Nico Robin does, except it's playable off of the Mihawk. So what it does, it's a 4 cost 5k power slash, which says on KO, trash one of your opponent's life. And so it's good because even if they don't kill it, then you get the immediate trash. And if
Yeah.
they don't kill it, it's able to swing 7k because of the attached 2 rested typically.
Yeah.
It'll get to swing into them and take them down from 3 to 2 life. Yeah. And that's kind of the only change. Otherwise, you can go the Supernova build. I've also thought about 5 cost Smoker, which I've seen many Yamatos run, and I need to play
Mm-hmm.
around with that to see how it fits in this deck.
Yep.
But yeah, I'll probably cut these and try and find space somewhere else.
Yeah, yeah. What are your thoughts on the 8 cost kid, the new one, the yellow?
The yellow 8 cost kid.
Yeah.
Uh, I should probably test it a little bit more. It
Mm.
feels like it comes out quite late, and it feels like it comes out quite late, but I could see it being useful in the slower matchups, like into. I could see it being really good into Shanks, being really good into Enel, some of
Yeah.
those yellow decks. Even into it'd be interesting into BY Luffy, and so I think it could be worth it to look into those and potentially run 1 or 2. Notably about this deck is that it runs 14 2Ks and 2 0 cost events. So in a lot
Yeah.
of my games, I actually ended up having just an abundance of counter in hand. And
Yeah.
so I was able to take very aggressively and try and bait my opponent into going for game, where I could then counter out and then kind of get a counter lethal,
Sure.
which is quite nice considering it also runs a lot of bricks. So it's kind of 2Ks or bricks.
Yeah.
I think it runs 19.
Well, thank you so much for that.
No, that's all
It's
right.
it's great to see Yamato do very well in this meta.
I
Any
appreciate
last
your time.
words that you'd want to say or shout outs?
I might start posting on Twitter now or
Oh, let's
X,
go.
but we'll see. I might just post once this deck list and then go, that was probably enough. But maybe follow me on that.
When it
Maybe
comes
I
out,
won't
we'll
play
make sure to
Yamato
link
again.
it.
Yeah. But no, thanks for the Christchurch team for playing endlessly into Yamato and it really not being helpful for their matchups because they've helped me test so much, but it's useless for them.
Unless they
Uh,
play against you.
Yeah, unless I plan to specifically me, yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, congratulations once again. Your second
Thank
top
you.
8 again with Yamato. It's great to see.
Yeah, third top 8, second with Yamato. It's pretty good.
Oh, third top 8. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. That was back in OP02. I don't know if it counts anymore.
No. We put that under the belt, so it definitely counts. Awesome. Well,
Thanks.
thank you again. We'll see you next
Awesome.
time.
Thanks so much.